Yo. Aubrey Edwards, Tony Schiavone. We bout to party. We bout to party. Unrestricted. Got the house now. We gon' turn it up.
Hey everybody, it is Unrestricted. I'm Aubrey Edwards along with my co-host Will Washington. How are you doing, Will?
I'm doing great, Aubrey. It is another just bright morning, and I don't know. I'm about to hit the gym, and I'm just feeling it today.
Hitting the gym, just like one of the brothers.
Yeah, I know, right? I think that's been the problem is working in AEW. Like, I was already like a gym guy. A lot of people know that I lost a whole lot of weight last year.
Yeah, you did.
Like, working in AEW and being around like all of these genuinely great fit people all the time has been like having me up my gym game. Like, I have to be in the gym like all the time. I have to keep up with you guys. It's like insane. Like, I talk to you and you're like, oh yeah, I was getting some stuff done while at the gym. And I'm like, I don't have
emailing
that
during my rest interval.
Yeah.
It's wild, right? And especially now with our travel schedule being what it is. Like, we're a couple weeks into Collision. So now we have this whole thing on a Saturday. So we've got another travel day going on. And then we got to be at the venue early. So now I'm trying to like get up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday to sneak in this workout because you got to take care of yourself on the road, right? Like, what has Collision been like for you?
I mean, it's been interesting because, you know, I was only on the road about a month and a half before Collision started. So it was like, okay, I was getting in the groove of, all right, you know, being on the road for Wednesdays. And then all of a sudden, now I have the second day where I get to be home for a day, chill, and then back on the road Friday. And I've been enjoying Collision. I think Collision, you know, we talked about it when AEW was first launching Collision and we were kind of getting into it. And you know, I made the point about the necessity of Collision. Like, when you take a look at the roster and how many people there are and how many people we want to see. And I think since Collision has started, I think all of that has felt justified. I have felt a vibe at both shows where it really doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of mystery around you know, what's coming up and things along those lines, because the Collision people know that they've got Collision things. The people who have got Dynamite things know they've got Dynamite things. And it feels really good. It feels like I just feel this renewed sense of energy at both shows when I'm there on Wednesdays and when I'm there on Saturdays. Absolutely.
It's a different vibe. It's kind of hard to describe. And I think when we have a couple weeks in, we could probably maybe talk more a little bit about it. But it's cool. It's awesome. And it's just way laid back, but it's also super fun. And I love it. Speaking of fun, we have one of the funnest guests. I'm sure this will be a fantastically fun interview. One of the most amazing human beings in the world, one of the happiest people in the world. I'm just so happy he's here because he lights up a room every time he's here. Mark Briscoe, welcome to AEW Unrestricted. How you doing, Mark?
What's up? I'm good. How's everybody doing?
Good. Will, how are you?
I'm really good. And honestly, I'm really excited to have you guys in the same place because...
Yes. There is a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about. Matter of fact, we can't even like get into a true discussion here about anything before we talk about you two teaming up. The two of you. We're in a six-person
with
tag.
Papa Briscoe.
Yeah, with Papa Briscoe on Rampage.
Oh my God.
You guys took on Karen Jarrett and Jeff Jarrett and of course Jay Lethal. So
yes.
First off, teaming with Aubrey, Mark, what was that like?
Well, what was it like? I do respect, Aubrey. I respect your decision, your retirement. You know, I respect it. I'm there for you. But
undefeated.
But yeah, undefeated. Just like our fellow, our other partner, Papa Briscoe. He's undefeated, and but I just want to let you know, if you ever decide to come out of retirement, we might have to go on a run, on a tear as the most destructive mixed trios team in the history of history.
I mean, go ahead, Will.
Well, no, I mean, like, Aubrey, like, honestly, like, it's one thing to retire undefeated, but you are undefeated by submission.
Yes. Oh my God.
That's a bad ad for you right there.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I never wrestled. I never intended to wrestle. I was like perfectly content, yelling at dudes and shouting rules and stuff. So when this whole thing happened, I'm like, sure, whatever. We're just going to ride the ride and see how it all works out. And then I heard I was tagging with Mark and his dad. I'm like, okay, this is pretty much the greatest thing in the world. Like, and it's not even like hyperbole, right? Like, this is so wonderful and amazing. And Papa Briscoe, by the way, like Mark already is an amazing human being, but like Papa Briscoe is just the sweetest person I've ever met. And he was immediately like, I was like, oh, this is like my dad. Like, he's just super proud of me. He was hugging me after, like, you did so great. I'm so proud of you. I'm like, yeah, we did it. This is awesome.
Damn right.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So like, tell me about like how that all came together. Like what led to the decision for you to use the figure 4 specifically?
I mean, it felt kind of like a badass move to just use Jay Lethal's finisher against his teammate. Mm-hmm. If I wanted to put like a period on everything, like, all right, here, this is how we're going out.
Right. Stamp it.
Right. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do.
I remember being in the discussion when all of this like was starting to come about, and then when it was brought up, and look, I'm a big Ring of Honor guy, so knowing a lot of the history of Ring of Honor, when I heard that Papa Briscoe was going to be a part of this, I got really excited. Mark, when did you find out that this was all going to happen, and what was your reaction to teaming again? So teaming with Papa Briscoe and teaming with Aubrey.
Well, I tell you, it was once the pay-per-view match with FTR and Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, when you know what I mean, when Karen stuck her nose in there, and then Aubrey.
That bitch.
Yeah, exactly. And then she had the audacity to do what she did to Aubrey. At that point, I was like, okay, there's got to be some comeuppance with at least Aubrey. I'm going to help Aubrey get her comeuppance. And then next thing you know, it's like, okay, we outnumbered here, and it's a weird dynamic because it's it's mixed tag team action. And I've said I'm not going to have any more tag team matches. I'm done with 2-on-2 tag team matches. Mm-hmm. So we got brainstorming. It's like, hold up. You know what might be just crazy enough to work? Just like the bat signal in the sky, calling the big man.
I think my favorite part of all of that, too, is like the timing of everything. Like the match was in Washington, D.C. You yourself are from the Northeast. So it was just like, this is too good. Like, and Washington, D.C. is where Sanjay's from. So it felt really good to especially like, beat his team and kind of where he's the big deal. So yeah, it's like, it's weird the way wrestling works where it all kind of comes down to just timing.
It really is.
Just perfect. And
it really is.
It was, oh man. Yeah, so this match was wild. There was promos, there was backstage segments, and then I felt like I had to follow up Mark with my own sleeveless ref tank top. Like, sure, there wasn't camo, like I can't rock that, but I threw a little bedazzled on. That was fine.
Oh, you crushed it.
I loved it so much. Like I told you at the time, I was like, I want to see this like every week. Just go out there with this. With the bedazzling, like honestly, I want to see Ref Aubrey in the back like every single time. It was great,
dude. The amount of people that have asked me, like, "Are you going to sell this shirt?" I'm like, "We don't even sell standard ref shirts." Like, like no. Like, I'm very happy. It was a wonderful experience. I could not have asked for anything better. Like, everyone involved in this, from the planning to the execution to Sarah Stock, who was helping us kind of put it all together. Like, I could not be happier. But I also could not be happier that it's done. Like, I was so sore that day, and I'm like, I barely took a bump. Like, Karen kind of took everything because I kicked her ass. But like, oh my God, like I have so much more appreciation for wrestlers, and Mark especially, for like carrying my ass through that whole thing. Because like I took a hot tag, came in, had about 2 minutes, and then called it. I'm like, there was a whole like 6 minutes before then.
See, you and Dad got that. You and Papa Briscoe got that it factor. Like, y'all got that less is more. Y'all ain't even got, y'all just show up, make that money, and leave.
Yeah, he comes in, throws a couple lariats. I throw on a figure 4, bash somebody with a guitar. Like, it's done. Money's made. Good business, brother. Let's get the hell out.
Damn right. Head to the pay window.
Oh, my God.
Well, prior to all of that, and Aubrey, you talked about your ref attire. Mark, talking about Double or Nothing, you got to ref the match between Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett versus FTR. At Double or Nothing, you were the special guest referee. What was it like being the referee in someone else's tag match?
I'll tell you, it was I enjoyed it. Next time I'll definitely have my knees and my elbows covered up because I was burned up for like 2 weeks from jumping on the mat and having, oh my goodness. But no, it was fun. And I'll tell you the first pinfall, I caught myself like, oh shit, that's right. I'm supposed to I'm the one that's supposed to count.
Well, I mean, it's not like there's anybody here with refereeing experience. I mean, what would you what would you say, Mark, was the hardest thing about being the referee?
Well, she's got to be on top of everything, especially in a tag match. You got 4 people, and Jeff Jarrett. We all know Jeff Jarrett, and he ain't shy on the scallywaggery, if you know what I mean. So gotta keep your eye on him. That's a full night's work right there. But yeah, it's just, you know, you got there multitasking. You got to get be sure ain't nobody in for longer than 5 seconds, and then you got mind them closed fists, and the next thing you know, somebody's making a pin out of nowhere. Oh shoot, I'm the one down there that's supposed to be counting, and then you know he's got to be sure that everybody want to keep on going. If they're in the arm ringer, got to ask, you good? Are you good? Because you don't never know. They might want to give it up. You don't never know. So you just got to be on top of everything. I got so much respect for Aubrey and for all the referees that man, y'all got a heck of a tough job.
I think one of my favorite parts of all of that was when we actually fitted Mark for a IFB so he could get time cues and stuff during the whole thing. And it was just like, oh, someone's chat with him the whole time.
Yeah, and that was a little bit of a challenge too, because I'm sitting there trying to do my referee duties, and the next thing I know, people are talking to me in my ear, and I can't quite hear them as well as I wish I could hear them. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm trying to focus on the match and trying to focus on, you know, making these 1-2s, but the whole IFB. If I have another experience, if I get to be a referee again, then I'm going to be more aware of that the earpiece, because that thing will throw you off at first.
It's a wacky thing when you're not used to actually getting the time cues and incorporating the production elements into what it is you're doing. Because normally, like, you're in the ring and we're just telling you, like, okay, 2 minutes left till break, and it's just like a whatever thing. But then there's all this other information coming in. You were lucky because it was a pay-per-view, so you didn't have to deal with a commercial. That was super fun.
I bet.
Oh my God,
Aubrey, I do have to note that I think in the history of AEW, this was almost one of the easiest nights of your career. And I say almost because you still had to take a guitar shot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, so easy, sure, right? I mean, just peeling back the curtain, I prefer pay-per-view days to weekly TV just because there is no commercials. It's literally when you start a match, you just have the time you're counting down and then you're pretty much good to go. So this was always kind of like weird. And then I found out, oh, we're doing this guitar shot. I'm like, well, I guess I'm not doing any matches later in the day. So I've got one and done. This is awesome. And it was early in the show too. So I was super pumped about it. I just got to actually like sit back and enjoy everything, which was awesome. And not something you really get to do on show day very often. So, but yeah, speaking of show day.
But you still had to take that guitar.
Well, I definitely spent a lot of time that night picking wood chips out of my hair, and I had some scratches on my face. I looked like a mess going to the airport the next day. It's like, what happened to you? I'm like, I'm not going to even explain it. It's just too much. Oh my God. But I want to talk about weekly TV because I know that this is something that like Mark is pretty new at. Like, ROH was sort of like its own thing for a long time, and we'll talk about your involvement with ROH eventually, but like, what's it like for you now being on weekly TV and having to adapt to sort of that style?
I tell you, it really is a whole different product when you're talking about something like what we do with AEW and its weekly TV. And there's only 2 hours of Dynamite, 2 hours of Collision, 1 hour of Rampage. And it's not going to be all wrestling. It's not going to be all matches. There's a lot of there's interviews, there's the promos, there's all the other stuff that comes in with weekly television. And so the biggest change for me is I'm not actually wrestling as much. Like me and Jay, we were, just guns blazing every weekend for 20, 22 years. And then now I show up to work and sometimes I got a match and sometimes I don't. And sometimes I'm like, man, I wish I had a match tonight. But then I'm like, oh shoot, I'm not going to be sore tomorrow. I get to I get to enjoy the dessert at catering right now. I don't gotta wait till after my match. I get to go eat the goodies right here, right now. But yeah, it's definitely a different speed. I put it like that. It's a totally different speed. I'm traveling a whole lot more, but not wrestling as much. But then when I do get to wrestle, it's like, all right, now it means most of the time it means more because of the setup work, the promos, and the preparation that we've done. So it's cool, and it's like a learning experience. It's funny, 23 years in now, it's like, oh man, still learning new stuff, still doing new stuff. But yeah, man, I ain't complaining. That's for damn sure.
Oh, yeah. And it's so great having you backstage at TV because you're such a wonderful, like, positive presence. And that's one of the things that I've loved about having you as part of our team now is just like, man, I've heard all of these amazing things about Mark Briscoe. And I think we'd met like once before. And now it's like every time I see you, I'm like, yes. And we talk about our wraps and we talk about our tortilla wraps, not like wraps like Mark Caster. There's a whole thing there. Anyway, we've got a lot more to talk about with Mark coming up here on AEW Unrestricted.
AEW Unrestricted. I'm Will Washington. Aubrey Edwards also with me, but we're talking with the one and only Mark Briscoe. Mark, we were talking about TV and being a part of AEW TV, and we can't talk about that without talking about, of course, your debut and how this all began. And you made your debut on the January 25th AEW Dynamite main event against Jay Lethal. It was a tribute match to your brother, Jay Briscoe. I kind of want to talk to you about that experience as a whole. That was, from a viewer's perspective, that was one of the most incredible pieces of television I've ever watched. I was in tears. I was touched. I think you guys really killed it in the ring. But then on top of that, just the way the outpouring of emotion and everything around that just was just incredible. And what was that experience like, with that being your first AEW Dynamite experience, with your first live TV experience with AEW, and getting to do that tribute for your brother? What was that like?
Man, it's just crazy how things happen, how the timing of things sometimes it's mind blowing to me. Like, to me, that's like, I don't know, like, I ain't trying to get too deep or whatever, but it's like God's like signature, like God's like hallmark, like, hey, I'm here. Like, it was like the day before my birthday. It was January 17th. My birthday is the 18th. That was the day that my brother passed, and I saw him earlier that day. And he was just being a goofball. He's like, you ready for your big day tomorrow? You ready for your big day tomorrow? And then a couple hours later, I'm getting a phone call. I'm like, like, what's happening? You know what I mean? And so, and then, yeah, just with the whirlwind that was going on that week, those next couple of days, it's just, and then I talked to Tony. Tony texted me. He said, hey, man, can I give you a call? And I was like, yeah, and he called me. And then between, I can't remember exactly how it was brought up, because like I said, everything was such a whirlwind at the time. But, of course, I'm talking to Lethal because he's one of my best friends. I talk to him all the time anyway. But then just the idea of that match had come up, and Tony was all for it. He was 100% like, if you want to do it, then let's do it. And I was like, shit, yeah, damn right. I mean, at first, when it first happened, I was almost like, well, I don't know if I ever want to wrestle again. And then as the hours go, it's almost like, shit, Damon will be pissed if I, you know what I mean? if I hung up the boots now, he'd be mad as hell. He'd be like, "Come on, chick, what the hell you doing, man? Like, don't be a little bitch." But so yeah, and then so it just the way that the next week's Dynamite is on Jamin's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not, you know what I mean? To me, it's like okay, well, that's little more than a coincidence. It's just like God's time, and then to be able for me and Jay Lethal to be able to get that main event match, and it just you know what I mean. It was almost it was strangely comforting. It was strangely like it brought me a lot of comfort, as in everything's gonna be all right. This is just all part of it. You know what I mean? This is just part of it. Keep on keeping on and carry him. You know what I mean? Just Jay's with you, like your brother's with you. Y'all been on this journey all these years, and that's not changing. It's not just you ain't by yourself now. It's just now I'm representing here in the physical, and he's still with us in the spiritual. You know what I mean? And it's just like I just got that overwhelming like the peace and the comfort and hey, carry on, keep on keeping on. Like don't let this be something that brings you down. Like use this almost as you know what I mean, a springboard to even take the journey higher, take the journey further, you know, keep grinding, you know what I mean? Do what Jay wants you to do and just keep on keeping on, you know?
It's one of the things that I've really loved about AEW. Like, it's unfortunate whenever people pass, but I feel like we go above and beyond to try and give everyone sort of their flowers and make sure that everyone knows that these people, what they've done for wrestling, what they mean to everyone backstage. Yeah. And like seeing you have that match, and then like we were talking about referee assignments that day, and all of us were pretty insistent that Paul Turner had to do it, just because it's like, dude, it's Ring of Honor. Like, even though it's AEW TV, it's like, this means so much to everything. And I know that it's a hard day for all of us, but like, dude, you got to do it. So seeing something like that, being a fan of Ring of Honor for so long was just so wonderful. And knowing the history now sort of between you and Jay and how you guys are such close friends, like it was just so good. And, you know, unfortunate circumstances, but I'm so happy that we all got to see you and celebrate your brother in that way.
Yeah, it was cool.
So speaking of your brother, you guys had tagged together for 20 years, almost from day one. And you were both really young when you started. So what was there any sort of like question that you guys weren't going to be working together? Was there just like, you guys are clearly we're very close, right?
Well, let me just slight correction there. It was 22. We started 22. May 20th. 2000 was our first match, which was actually, it's funny with this question that our first match was supposed to be Mark Briscoe versus Jay Briscoe, but then the two local heels, Mr. Ooh La La and the fabulous Mozart Fontaine in Wilmington, Delaware, they came out and you two little pipsqueaks, you guys, you don't deserve this ring, so we're going to show you what's what, and we're going to put you in your place. You don't even belong here. So it turned into a tag match. But now we used to, when we started wrestling, not professionally, obviously, but when we started wrestling in the backyard and on the trampoline, and then we built the ring, it was always me versus him. So I guess I never had thought about, when we go pro, we're going to be a tag team. I had never thought about that because we had always been, we had always been each other's arch nemesis. So we just didn't, but I guess now looking back, hindsight's 2020, it's kind of like a foregone conclusion. We less than 1 year apart in age, and we have a similar look and everything. So I mean, just kind of pretty good template for a brother tag team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting because when you talk about Ring of Honor and the history of Ring of Honor, you cannot even think about Ring of Honor without thinking about the Briscoe brothers. It is just you guys were synonymous with the name of Ring of Honor because, you know, when you talk about the first ever Ring of Honor show, the Era of Honor Begins, you guys were on that show. But Jay wrestled that show. But you did not. You accompanied him to the ring, but couldn't wrestle. Why was that?
I was 17 years old, and so that was February 20 or 2002. So we started in 2000, May 2000. I was 15, Jay was 16. So now 2002, Jay had just turned 18, and I was still 17. And the state of Pennsylvania had just started enforcing a rule that you got to be 18 years old to wrestle in the state of Pennsylvania, even though me and Jay both had already wrestled in Pennsylvania while we were minors. But the rumor has it, one night we chose to do one show instead of another show. And the guy from the show that we didn't choose to do, he called the athletic commission and said, "Hey, you know that so-and-so has underage people working for them." And so we were the reason they even started enforcing the rule. They didn't enforce the rule until we got somebody tattletaled on us. And then we actually had a couple matches where we wore masks and we were the Midnight Outlaws, and we dodged the Pennsylvania Athletic Commission when we were still 16 and 17 as the Midnight Outlaws, because they didn't know that the Midnight Outlaws were underage. They just knew that Mark and Jay Briscoe were underage. And it wasn't very thorough, as in everybody in the locker room, you let me see your IDs. It was like, oh, Mark and Jay Briscoe, they're not on the card. They're the guys who are underage. And so, so we had a couple, the Midnight Outlaws. That was a good old day. But that's why I wasn't on that first show. That's why I wasn't on the first handful of shows in Pennsylvania, because all the first shows were in Philly. The first Ring of Honor shows were in Philly. The first show that wasn't in Philly was up in Massachusetts, and that's when I made my Ring of Honor debut against my brother.
Damn. You sneaky dude. Trying to skirt the law the way you did.
Don't underestimate the sneakiness, Aubrey.
those wrestling commissions.
How did you guys get involved with Ring of Honor as it got started?
Well, when we broke in back in 2000, we were up in Wilmington, Delaware, but we always were going to the old ECW shows at ECW Arena in South Philly. Well, anybody who's familiar with that time frame of between the ECW and a lot of the Northeast independents, Rob Feinstein, he was a tape dealer. He sold tapes. This was back before DVDs and before anything digital, but he would have tables set up with just crates and crates and crates of tapes, like New Japan, All Japan, Mexico, death matches, all the old ECW stuff, just so many different tapes. And like that was, if you wanted to watch wrestling besides for what's on TV back then, he was the go-to guy. He got all the tapes from all around the world. And so we knew him before we even started wrestling, because we were going to all the shows, buying tapes from him. And then when we do start wrestling, we actually are on shows that he's doing his thing. He's selling his tapes and whatnot. And we actually got to know him. And Doug, his partner, Doug Gentry, but rest in peace, Doug. But so Rob's actually the guy who started Ring of Honor in 2002. And we already knew the guy for a couple of years just from Northeast Independence and from ECW and from buying tapes from him. And he was a fan, and he said, "Hey guys, I want to use y'all." So that's how it all started with Ring of Honor.
That's crazy. And I love that wrestling, because like it's not just Ring of Honor, it's pretty much everywhere. It's like, how did you end up on the show? Well, I knew a guy, because wrestling is so interconnected that way. And it's so fascinating to hear stories like this. It all just came from like, I bought a couple tapes from a guy, and then I ended up on a TV show that I became synonymous with for 20 years. No big deal.
Yeah, right.
Funny how it all works out.
It
But
all
yeah, I
started
mean,
with the best of Japanese death matches tape that I bought in Dover, Delaware in 1998.
dang, who would have thought, right? That
Right?
eventually leads to like you being on TV every week. Damn. I mean, as Will said, you can't say Ring of Honor without thinking of the Briscoes and the Briscoe brothers, like how much you guys have done. And back in the inaugural ROH Hall of Fame class 2022, it was you guys, CM Punk, Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, all inducted. What did it mean to you to be inducted into a Hall of Fame with Jay?
I tell you, that was really cool. It was cool, and that was during that little window where Sinclair Broadcasting had announced that Ring of Honor was, for all intents and purposes, was done as far as with Sinclair Broadcasting. That was before Tony Khan bought Ring of Honor. Thank you, Tony. But yeah, so at the time it was almost like, oh wow, is Ring of Honor over? And now is this Hall of Fame going to be a thing? Like every year there's a new class, but no more Ring of Honor. But then, so yes, it was very humbling and very like, wow, that's crazy. It was Joe, Brian Punk, like, and then us like, wow, we've come a long way. But and then when Tony, I never forget when he made the announcement on Dynamite that one night that he had bought Ring of Honor. I like to jumped out of my seat. I was like, what? Called Jay. He was like, hey, are you watching, man? You watch? We do still got a job. Woo! But
Oh my God.
yeah,
That's
the Hall of Fame thing was really, really cool.
It's super awesome and it's well deserved. I mean, the amount of stuff you've done in wrestling, and I feel like you're just even getting started. So congrats to you, man. This is awesome. We've got more coming up here on AEW Unrestricted. Will and Aubrey talking to Mark Briscoe.
AEW Unrestricted. I'm still Will Washington. She's still Aubrey Edwards.
Aubrey.
And we've still got with us the amazing, the wonderful, the talented Mark Briscoe with us. Mark Briscoe, famously one half of the amazing tag team Briscoe Brothers. And the reason I bring that up is because, a lot of teams are known for, I think you can't really have historically a significant tag team that didn't at some point have a rivalry with each other that just happens over time. But what's interesting about you guys' story is that yours, for most teams, it happens later in their runs. Yours happened very, very early on in Ring of Honor. You guys started in Ring of Honor feuding with each other. Tell me about that, and tell me about how that came together and what led to you guys essentially deciding to bring it back together as a team.
Well, here we go. The first Ring of Honor show, day one, Ring of Honor, day one. The era of honor begins. First match, Jay Briscoe versus Amazing Ray. Mark Briscoe can't wrestle because he's 17 years old. Right. So I'm looking at my big brother like, come on, man, let's make the family proud. So what does he do? Goes out there and he loses. And then the next show, what does he do? He goes out there and he loses. And he loses again. So I gotta give him a hard time. Like, come on, man. If I was allowed to wrestle, I'd be making everybody proud. But here you are losing match after match. So that being said, I think he took offense to that. And I told him, well, shoot, in Massachusetts, I'm allowed to wrestle in Massachusetts. So put your money where your mouth is. Me versus you, Massachusetts. Let's go. So that was my debut, Mark Briscoe versus Jay Briscoe, and I whooped his monkey ass. But yeah, that was the storyline going in. He was losing, and I was clowning him because he kept losing. And so then, of course, there's hard feelings there. I actually was recruited by Chris Daniels, the Prophecy. That was one of the original stables, one of the original groups in Ring of Honor. So Chris Daniels, he took me under his wing, and so I steered in that direction. Jay's trying his damnedest but can't win a damn match, and so so that was the whole. That was the beef there, was me clowning him because he couldn't win, and then me going with Chris Daniels. And then when we came back, actually, if I'm not mistaken, because I turned 18 that next January. So that's when I could start wrestling in Pennsylvania, in wherever, But in November, when I was still 17, I'm in high school, and one of my best friends in high school, he was actually killed in a car accident when I'm 17 years old. And I think because that rocked me, I'm a senior in high school, and that kind of rocked my world there. And I was kind of like, it really kind of threw me for a loop as far as just life in general. But and then me and Jay, it was in New York at the what is it, the Madhouse of Extreme, what is it, the ECW used to run there. Damn it, it'll come to me. I can't remember. It's gonna come to me. But so it was in New York, so I could wrestle because it wasn't Pennsylvania. So it was Mark versus Jay 1-on-1, and he won that match. I think that was kind of like when we squashed the beef, and then soon
Elks
after
Lodge.
we could start. Yes, Elks Lodge. Thank you, the Elks Lodge.
Will with the Google.
But then soon after that was kind of like our squash the beef match. And then soon after I turned 18, so then we can start wrestling. I think our first real feud, or our first program when I did turn 18 was me and Jay versus Red and AJ Styles, which was a cool little trilogy of matches.
Dang. It's wild. Like, I didn't realize that until all the story happened. And it's like, yeah, you started with a feud and then ended up getting together. So, I mean, clearly Jay needed a couple wins, so it was in his best interest to wrestle with you. There's always one brother that's better. We're not always going to say it publicly, but
yeah. He won 2 world titles. That's all right.
That's all right. That's all right. But you guys won, I think, the tag titles like 13 times.
Yes, man. 13.
Ridiculous. And I don't know how we haven't talked about this, but like for a lot of people, when Tony bought Ring of Honor, it was bringing Ring of Honor to sort of like a new audience that hadn't really seen everything that you guys had done before. And one of the first shows, obviously in every show after that, you guys have this amazing feud with FTR, who is one of the greatest tag teams of all time. I think we can confidently say this at this point. So what did that series of matches mean for you? Because you guys came in as champs, and then I think you ended up dropping the belts, and then you ended up getting them back. And it was just every match, it was, oh, this can't get any better. And then it got better. Oh, this can't get any better. Double dog collar. Oh my God, this is the greatest match we've all ever seen.
Yeah, those are. I mean, that was really, really special to me. That the whole thing, the whole feud, the whole program. Like even before the first match, when the first interactions started happening, I remember it had to be October when Sinclair broadcasted, when they announced, okay, we're going to do Final Battle in December, but after that we're done. Ring of Honor's done. And so me and Jay, that's been our place of employment for 20 years. We're like, what the hell? Well, so we got to figure something else out. But previously Ring of Honor, they didn't let us do many independent dates, like not many at all. Like all the Ring of Honor guys were exclusively Ring of Honor. And as soon as that announcement was made, then it was also kind of part of the announcement that all the Ring of Honor guys are now free to do whatever, can do all the indies. And so we start taking, we're doing indies like it's back 2006, 2007. But right as soon as that announcement was made that the Ring of Honor guys were free, the cage has been open. I remember that very night, Dax Harwood, he tweeted, it just said Briscoes, just Briscoes. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh shit. And Jamin, good Lord, my brother, if there was one thing he loved, it was stoking the fire and just getting people fired up. And for him to see that opportunity and just his eyes just light up, and then we said something back. I don't remember. It started with just back and forth, a little bit of Twitter banter, and then next thing you know, we cut the first video like, hey, it's all talk. Like, what's good? Like, come on. Like, we not the ones that's, we're not preventing this from happening. Like, let's go. You scared? Like, come on, let's do it. And then they fire back. And then next thing you know, Tony buys Ring of Honor. It's like, hold up, this might actually be something that might end up happening. And then Supercard of Honor, which was March? It was at the end of March.
Yeah.
And and the match was announced, and it was just like, oh shoot, it's like one of those, because it wasn't built up on TV. It wasn't built up with the meetings of the creative and the bookers talking about, all right, like, let's do this, cut this promo, cut that promo. It was just totally organic. It was totally me and Jay doing promos, Dax and Cash doing promos, or responding, or however they would reply. First, so I guess it was that final battle where we did think it was the last Ring of Honor show when we wrestled Taven and Bennett.
Mm-hmm.
And we, after that match, the lights go off, lights come on, and then there's FTR, and then we have the first actual physical confrontation. It's like everything about it was just so, and shit didn't feel real. It felt like it felt magical. Like everything just fell into place from the very first, when Dax tweeted Briscoes. From then all the way till the end of the dog collar match, it was just like, it couldn't have been different. It couldn't have been better. Like, it's just like magical. You know what I mean? Yeah. Crazy.
I think just for me, I was in the building, Curtis Culwell Center, for that first match in Garland, Texas, seeing you guys go at it, and it was just such an incredible experience. Like, the amount of people who just wanted to see this match actually happen, and before the bell had even rung, half the crowd chanting "Top Guys," the other half chanting "Dim Boys," everybody going nuts, everybody screaming their heads off, and you guys hadn't even touched yet. Like, the amount of anticipation you guys built. Like, I was just thinking about what you were saying there about how it was really just you guys putting this together. There wasn't, a team of bookers. There wasn't a team of creative really coming up with ideas for how to sell this match. You guys were selling it. And then at the end of the day, it worked. You had an entire crowd of people who were just insanely wanting to see you guys lock up. And then the fact that every match delivered after that to me is pro wrestling. That is just the beauty of this sport that you guys do. And I love that.
Thank you, man.
So good. So good.
Of course, wanted to talk about going back a little bit with you and Jamin. Got started wrestling at a very early on age. What kind of prompted what this made you guys decide this is what we're going to do? We are going to be professional wrestlers. What sparked that interest?
Man, I'm telling you, like, when we were like little kids, like 3, 4, 5, 6, when we were that age of kids, we loved watching WWF. It was Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, just like a whole lot of my generation of wrestlers. It was Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior. Jay liked Ultimate Warrior. I liked Hulk Hogan, and we just, we were just so glued to it and just loved it. But then there did come a time period there where we kind of got away from it, and we weren't so in love with it when we were, I don't know, let's say 9, 10, 11, 12, something like that. But we were playing basketball. We were on a basketball team, and we had a tournament in Philadelphia. And so the whole team went up, stayed in a hotel, and then the next morning we'd go to the tournament or whatever. But when we stayed in the hotel that night, me and Jay and all our 10, 11-year-old buddies on the basketball team, we're clicking through the channels, and there's local ECW pro wrestling hardcore TV. And it's the first time I'd ever seen anything besides for WWF or WCW, or I guess old NWA. But like, this was like watching the ECW product with the chairs and the barbed wire and the people just going ballistic in the crowd and hooting and hollering and chanting and all kind of crazy stuff, and just the whole vibe. It was like, oh, I didn't even know that this existed. So then that kind of got us back into, like, we wanted to watch more ECW. So then we kind of got back into wrestling, and then we went to that first live ECW show, and it's just, I mean, insane. Dude, insane. It was just a whole different vibe from anything I had ever experienced. And from then on, me and Jay was like, this is for us. Like, this is what we're here for. It just clicked. It was like, man, this is it.
Some things are just meant to be, man. It's friggin' awesome. Before we wrap up, we had a number of fan questions that come in, and I want to get through a couple of these before we say goodbye. But there was a question, and I think this really, really speaks true to kind of everything we've talked about, from the Michael Murray on Twitter. What's the one thing that you hope people will always remember about Dem Boys?
Oh, shoot. That we the damnedest tag team, the baddest tag team, you know what I mean? Never turned down from a fight. And it's, I mean, the range that we had, where we could do the technical matches, or we could do the spot fest, or we could do the hardcore, or whatever you want to do, you know what I mean? Like, we could do it from whatever spot on the show. If they want the first match, if they want the main event, if they want anything in between, if they want this, that, or the other, cage match, ladder match, any kind of stipulations, like, we got you. It ain't no problem. Like, we got you. Like, I think as a team, and I hate sounding like I'm bragging, but I don't think any team could really hit so many different genres of pro wrestling and knock it out the park like me and Jay.
100% agree. I look, I again, personally, huge Briscoe's fan. I can't argue that at all. Do we want to do one more fan question?
I think we got time for one more.
All right. So I want to read this one from Tigers at the Aquarium. It says, as someone who also has faith in something more, I really appreciated how Mark described his brother's passing. Can he talk a bit more about that strength of faith in such a challenging time? It's an inspiring thing, the way he has handled all of that.
Hey, I said it from the day. I mean, from the time Jamin passed, from that day, I just remember having like, and I don't know, some people might have heard me say it before, but when I was going from my house to the hospital, and I'm like, my brain is just like, you know what I mean, not functioning properly, and it's like, what is, like, nothing is making sense, and it's like, this can't be real, and this, that, or the other. It's like, I swear to you, it's like, I heard over everything else. It was like, do you believe what you say you believe? You know, because I profess my faith in my belief in God and belief in Jesus Christ, and you know what I mean. But then it was like, at that moment, it was like, do you believe what you say you believe or not? And so I had to sit there and I had to check myself, and I was like, well, I do. And then at that point, it's like, well, if that's the case, like, you know, worry about your nieces. Like, don't worry about Jay. Like, he done graduated. He's at the next. He done leveled up. You know what I mean? He done leveled up, and so that's what really comforted me. And it's like, hey, I'm rolling with that. Like, you know what I mean? We can all choose to believe whatever we want to, and that's the thing about faith. It's faith. It's not proof. It's faith. Like, it's like, you can't prove God, but you can't prove against God either. So, and it's like, that's like, all right, well, if this is what I believe, and if I truly believe this, then I know that my brother's all right. And now, like, my niece, like, they told her that night, you'll never walk again. She's taking like 20 some odd steps, like, just the other night, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, if there ain't nothing more than this life, and you know what I mean, then that ain't really, like, I don't think that I would be able to feel Jay. I would be able to feel just the peace and the comfort that I do get from God and from just knowing that He still exists. And not only does He exists in a higher reality, in a higher state of reality. Like, He's more real. His life and His existence, right? What He's experiencing right now is more real than when I'm existing. Like, this is like dumbed down and like dim. Like, we haven't even, like, all our spiritual senses haven't even been our spiritual eyes. We can't even see with our spiritual eyes. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much more than this. And so that's just one, it gives me encouragement that while I am here on this planet, on planet Earth, you know what I mean? To you know what I mean? Do this shit to the max. Like, like, don't, like, to just not live in a way where I'm scared or afraid or worried. It's just like, live to the fullest, because Jay didn't know. None of us knew that was, I seen him that very day. If I'd have probably given him a hug if I knew that was the last time I was going to see him. You know what I mean? But it's just like, to live this life to the fullest, and then to know that this isn't it. It's just like, that's really helped me to carry on, helped me to not, you know what I mean, lose my shit.
It's beautiful, man. Like, you went through a crazy hardship, and as you said, like, no one knows when it's going to happen. And the fact you speak so highly of your faith and you speak so highly of your brother, given everything that's gone through, it's like, I really commend you for that, man. Like, you're really a wonderful human being. You're just, you brighten a room every time you walk in. Like, your smile, you come in and everyone's just like, man, Mark Briscoe's here. This is going to be fucking great. Like, it's going to be a good day when Mark's here.
Hey, I appreciate that, Aubrey.
Of course, man. Thank you so much for being here today and having this conversation with us.
Hey, right. Thank y'all. This was cool.
This is very cool. Thank you, Mark. You can follow Mark on Twitter at Sussex Co Chicken and on Instagram at m.briscoesr. And of course, listen to this podcast, new episodes every Thursday, all your favorite podcast platforms. You can check out the video episodes on YouTube and see Mark's awesome cat sitting with him on the chair. Kitty. Yeah, there we go. Kitty.
Queen
awesome.
Kitty Poopy.
Queen Kitty Poopy.
First. I thought she was because I set the camera up and I thought she would probably go on her way, but she's perfectly content.
She co-hosted the whole time. What a cat. You can watch Dynamite Wednesdays. You can watch ROH on Thursdays. You can watch Rampage Fridays. You can watch Collision Saturdays. We're all over the place. You can see this incredible person wrestle on TV. Mark Briscoe, thank you so much. This is Aubrey Edwards along with Will Washington. Thank you for listening to AEW Unrestricted.